Hi, welcome to this segment. I'm Bruno Aziza, and I'm sitting here with Tony Scott, who is the Corporate Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Microsoft. Welcome to the segment.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Thank you. So, Tony, you're a veteran in the industry. You've been recognized not just for your work you've done at Microsoft, but at other organizations such as Disney, General Motors, and Bristol-Myers Squibb. You've also been recognized recently by the CIO Hall of Fame, so congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Now, there's a big project that you're running at Microsoft called the CIO Scorecard. So can you share with us what it is and how it came about?
Yeah, the scorecard is actually, the one I have is called the CIO Scorecard, but it's part of a whole set of tools that we use broadly across Microsoft for our scorecarding processes. And virtually most of the organizations here at Microsoft have a scorecard based on the same technology. And essentially what it is a small number, usually less than 30, of measures that is our all-up measure of how we're doing as an organization. And so there are elements of the scorecard that are people-focused, there are some that are project-focused, and there's some, in my case, that are more operations-focused. But all up, it's the way that we measure the success or areas where we need to pay more attention in our business.
And so how did the project come about? Is it a contract that you have with the business?
Yeah, it starts really with a discussion that we have. The discussion is, part of it is with our internal clients, people like our finance or HR or business groups. Some of it is an internal conversation within IT in terms of how we get operational excellence and so on. But at the end of the day, as a part of our annual planning process, we usually from year to year make small modifications to the scorecard. We try not to change everything all the time, but we'll make minor tweaks. And then we'll lock in on the things that we want to measure in the scorecard for that year.
And so when you think about the scorecard as a tool to manage the business and communicate a relationship with the business internally, how does this align with the cultural change that Microsoft went? I'm thinking as a performance-driven type of organization.
Well, this whole performance culture is something that started a few years ago. My boss, Kevin Turner, came to Microsoft and really began throughout the SMSG organization to drive this, and it's now expanded well beyond that. But essentially, at the bottom of it is a couple of core elements. It starts, as I described, with a conversation about what's important, and then figuring out what are the ways that we can measure whether we're actually doing what we said we were going to do in our personal commitments, our organizational commitments, and the like. And then making that very visible and transparent so that everyone who's concerned can look at it and determine how we're doing on the things that are important to us. And so it sounds simple, but you'd be surprised how many organizations don't really do one or more elements of that.
That's right. I mean, it's a big struggle, I think, for organizations, particularly as you think about the number of KPIs that you need. In fact, would there be some best practices you think people need to hear on if you were to take on such a big transformation project like what you did? What are the 2-3 things you need to think about when you launch the initiative?
Well, I think the first thing is get really clear on the goals, and that's really where you have to spend some time. Often I find that the goals are confusing or conflicting, and you really need to spend time on getting clear on that. On our scorecard, you can actually click on the short description of the goal and get a much longer, sometimes even a paragraph description of what it is we're actually looking for, how we're measuring it, what's red, yellow, green in terms of achievement of the metric. So if there's any question, you can go back to a more fuller description. But that's important, number one. Number two is make sure the right accountability is there for the goals. So this could be an individual, an organization, could be 2 people, but they really need to sign up, and it needs to be clear and obvious who's really responsible for the goal. Then the third thing is, what is the actual measure? And so many times you see organizations, in fact, measuring the wrong thing. And I'll give you an IT example. I found in my career that for any of the people that are working for me, if I give them a dollar goal to go achieve in the form of a reduction or something, it almost invariably can drive the wrong behavior. The dollars are really an outcome of the work that we do. So an example would be, if we reduce systems, the dollars will come out. If I tell them I just want to reduce cost, then I'll almost never really get the systems reduction that I'm really looking for at the end of the day. And so just a little insight into some of the tricks of the trade.
Well, thank you for sharing these thoughts with us. So 3 things really is: be clear on the goal.
Yep.
Make sure you align accountability so it's clear who's on point for solving X, Y, and Z problem. And then the third one is this idea of picking the right incentive and maybe picking the right driver to drive the right behavior.
And the right measurement.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Tony.
Thank you so much.
This has been great and very helpful for everybody. Until next time, I'm Bruno Aziza.